The B-Stock Electronics Outlet Store is proud to present Kevin Keatsman Has Issues, online at bstock.net.
We just had a great time on Wednesday evening in Raymore at Mojitos Mexican restaurant, which was outstanding, as Mark Alford, your next congressman from the 4th District of Missouri, spoke along with Pete Mundo of KCMO Talk Radio at one of his Politics in a Pint events. Really nice turnout. The room was overflowing. There were people standing in the doorway and spilling out into the other room, and it lasted about an hour. The actual speaking event lasted about an hour, and Mark Alford covered pretty much every topic and consideration for Missouri's 4th District that you heard in the podcast that we did a couple of days ago here at KKHI. I would encourage those of you who have not heard it, if you live in Kansas or a different state and he's not going to be your congressman, I would still encourage you to go back and listen to that podcast from a couple of days ago. Mark Alford is an absolute pro. He's a natural in front of people. He's a natural broadcaster. He's a natural conservative and Christian, and he's got this district won, and they know that. This was a different kind of event, maybe kind of a polar opposite of the Amanda Adkins event we were at a couple of weeks ago, where, you know, she's on pins and needles, and the race is going to the wire, complete toss-up. Nobody knows how it will break. We've seen the Wall Street Journal report that their polling indicates suburban white women in the United States since this summer, since August until now, the 1st of November, have moved 26 points toward the GOP. So what we thought was a huge issue with abortion, and they polled women in the summer after the Dobbs decision, we saw that take place, and these women were like, no, we're Democrats. And then they just kept going to the grocery store, and they kept buying gas, and they kept living their lives, and they started paying their bills, and they saw their air conditioning bill come in, and they read about what's going to happen to their heating bill, and they see real-world things happening with their families, as most suburban white women are moms. Okay, most, not all. Most suburban white women are moms. And their biggest concern in the world is not some political issue for the left or the right. Their biggest concern in the world is their children. And they went back to school shopping, and they've seen what activities cost now, and they're driving around from one thing to another with their kids. The price of daycare is up, and a whopping 26% turnaround with suburban white women from Democrat to Republican. That, according to the Wall Street Journal. Even if you don't believe in polls, let's just say it's half that. That flips the election from 2 years ago. I don't think there's any question about that. And I think within this, there's a broader and deeper story about a discussion for down the road about who the Republican nominee should be for president in 2024, because I do believe that a lot of these women moved left because of Donald Trump. They didn't personally like him. They kind of thought he was gross and vulgar and obnoxious and things of this nature. They took for granted that the economy was good, that their 401k was up, that their life was good. They took all that for granted. People do take it for granted. They will crush you at the polls voting if you're failing. Many millions of Americans will give you no credit when things are good. They will simply say, well, it's supposed to be good in America. This person or this party's doing nothing. It's supposed to be good. And I think some of that was taking place in 2020. The pandemic, of course, took place. That changed the way we voted with all the drop boxes and things that have been shored up in many states with laws that have been enacted since then. But this flip in women, make no bones about it, is twofold. It's the economy, okay, and it's the no Trump factor. I don't think anybody's really talking about that, but I believe that's true. I believe there are a lot of suburban white women that simply went left because they didn't like Donald Trump personally and thought, well, I don't like him. I'm going to vote for the other guy because, well, life's going to be good no matter what. And now they've gone, holy crap, was that a mistake? And there have been a few podcasts where I've talked in the past about what happened in my life when Jimmy Carter was president. Jimmy Carter was elected when I was 12 years old. I watched what happened in America. We got kicked around. They kicked sand in our face. The Iranians took the hostages. The economy was horrible. Interest rates for buying a house were 17%. Things were bad. America kind of sucked. The rest of the world didn't look at America as any kind of a shining example. We weren't leaders. And along comes Ronald Reagan in 1980 who said, no, America is great. These people just crushed it. And he taught millions of people just like me at those formative years. Those were teenage years. 1980, I couldn't vote. I was 16. 84, my first presidential election, I voted for Reagan. It was an easy vote. He swept through the country, won everything except Minnesota, right? So this became an easy choice. And for people of my age, my generation, we learned very quickly that Democrat Party policies don't work. Republican policies do work. And I was done for life. That was it. I learned all about it. I loved all about the economics of it. I loved all about the safety of it, the prominence that we have on a world stage. And more than anything else, just the American exceptionalism that Ronald Reagan projected first and then delivered on and proved it was not only doable, but that's who and what we were. So I think this is happening as we see this tide turn and we see the 26-point swing with suburban white women. And several people mentioned it to me last night. They said, did you see that we're up 15 points with suburban white women? I said, yeah, but the better story is it's a 26-point swing from where it was in August. Republicans are plus 15 right now nationally with suburban white women. If that's the case, there's no way Amanda Atkins loses in Kansas District 3. If that's truly the case, if that polling is even remotely accurate, this is the red tsunami. This is the one, because this is a huge swing vote in the United States. Suburban white women are a massive swing vote. They drift in the wind. They clearly were polling this summer that abortion was their biggest issue, and now they realize there's a lot bigger. Because let's be honest, for most suburban white women, abortion is not an issue. They're married. They have their children. Their husband may be fixed at this point. It's a very controllable thing. Adults can control this. Now, they may have teenage girls at home and be very concerned about this. And abortion could be a very big issue for a mother with teenage girls at home. But for most people in America, abortion is not much of a factor. It certainly isn't a daily occurrence. It isn't something you think about day by day. It could be something that comes up in your life. And clearly there's enough places in this country to get an abortion still with the Dobbs decision that people have learned over the last few months that abortions are available. They haven't gone away. Abortions, by the way, are down. We're aborting fewer babies over the last few months than we have in quite a while. So that's good news. Maybe that's the beginning of the compromise. We've seen all this movement. We've seen all this polling. We know what's happened. And here's Mark Alford speaking at his event in District 4 and doesn't really need to address any of the things that affect any sort of swing voting or anyone in the middle. It is a 24-county district in Missouri that has hundreds, thousands of farms in it, thousands of farms. So it's a big ag district, and Mark knows that. And it became a very fascinating discussion because here we were a week out from an election. I've never been to anything quite like this, where he wasn't talking about if he wins. He's talking about what happens beginning at 7 o'clock Tuesday night when they get the result that he's won. So he's going to win this district. He told a story about speaking with Kevin McCarthy and other leadership in the House and what they will be doing immediately. They will immediately have conference calls on Wednesday. Within a week, they'll start voting for leadership positions within the House. And he's going through all this. And he says, but the best part of all this, the best part of where we are is I'm driving through the Grandview Triangle in rush hour today to get back out here to Raymore, where his campaign office is. His campaign office is right next to the Mexican restaurant where this event was being held. And he holds his phone up and he goes, at 4:52, this is what happened. And he says, he reads this text. He got a text. And then a phone call. And the phone call says, this is so-and-so with President Trump's office. And the president would like to speak to you. And Alford's like, no, this is a joke. It's crazy. This is not a crank. Hold the line for the president, please. And then Trump comes on the phone and starts speaking to Mark Alford and says, we have this press release we want to put out supporting your candidacy. We want to endorse you strongly, and we sent it to you, and have you read it? And here it is, and they read it back and forth. And Alford, this is how strong this guy's going to be. Alford is strong enough to say, thank you very much, Mr. President. This is incredible, but could you please add America first somewhere in there? And he said Trump pulls the phone down and hollers across the room and says, add America first to that one, will you? And Alford's like, yes, he's going to add America first to it. Mark Alford had the balls to tell the president, please put America first in the press release endorsing me. The press release was great. He got Trump's endorsement yesterday. There was a real buzz in the room. Alford has that district won. It was so much fun hearing him discuss what he's going to do, what they're going to do, how he's going to act. the way things are going to happen. He talked a lot about McCarthy, and he said, look, I'm not. He said, I'm going to begin supporting Kevin McCarthy. It's what you do as part of the party. He said, but I am going to be the first one to speak up if this thing isn't moving to the right. He said, I'm not kidding. I'm not going to Washington to be silent. I can get on television. I know people in the media. I know how to be on TV. I know how to make a ruckus. If this thing is not moving to the right far enough with this party, I'm going to be the loudmouth. And the place just roared. They loved hearing him say that. And I had told Jessica on the way out to the event, I said, Mark Alford isn't going there to be quiet. He isn't going there to just put his vote in. All right. So, yes, you begin, and I would do the same thing. Yes, I'm on Kevin McCarthy's team. He has the votes, whether I vote for him for speaker or not. He has the votes. And Alford said that. He said, look, the man has the votes. I might as well vote for him. I can't stop him from being speaker. You may not think he's conservative enough, but I'm going to give the man a chance. He says, if this thing isn't moving to the right, I'm going to be the loudest guy in D.C. And I thought, well, there you go. Maybe he'll start his own squad. I don't know exactly how that will work, but it was really, really neat event. I'm really happy for Mark Alford. It was fun to be at a Republican event where we know the candidate's going to win, and the entire discussion is about what he's going to do and how this is going to go. And he went through some of the logistics of the first few weeks and how it all goes down. Also, congratulations to Mark and his family. His daughter is getting married the Saturday after the election. I don't think it's this Saturday. It might be this Saturday. I'm confused whether it was this Saturday or the Saturday after the election. I think it's after the election. So he's got a big week either way. He's getting a daughter married, and he's going to be elected congressman for the first time, all in the same week. That was pretty cool. Also had a couple people come up to me and say, I hear you say you're on Twitter and you do this, and now I'm getting a lot more emails and questions about Twitter. People seem to be open to the possibility of getting on Twitter now because Elon Musk owns it, and I would encourage you to do so. I would encourage you to go there and have an opinion. It's okay to have an opinion. Get some followers. Tag some other people. Retweet, comment about one of my tweets, and retweet it to all of the people following me. And some of them will see you and maybe follow you. We can all make a difference now. This is what they've been doing for 15 years on Twitter, and we need to get active. And for some of you, it's not the way you live. You're private. Conservatives are more quiet and private than liberals. There's no question about that, and that's great. You have absolutely every right to your privacy, and I'm not encouraging or pushing anyone to go get on social media or Twitter if you don't want to. But if you felt like you shouldn't be there because you can't say what you think, then that's no reason anymore to not be on Twitter. But people are coming up to me now and saying, I've gotten on Twitter. I don't post, but I follow you and I read things and things like that. And I try to hit the little heart button that says, I like this tweet. And I've had a half a dozen or so this past week of people email or come up to me and say, look, I've tried to like your tweet. It's a very simple, it's not even retweeting. It's just, I like this. Heart, little heart. It's like a kiss. Hey, that's good, Kev. I like this. If you're not on Twitter, that's how it works. And you've said you get a notification that pops up. Your screen turns into, quote, this tweet link may lead to a harmful site. So with most of my tweets, they're about the podcast, and I will, at the bottom, there will be a link to the podcast. I will say, hey, I was at Mark Alford's event on Wednesday night. Hear the story of his call from President Trump right now at kkhisissues.com. And all you got to do is hit that link. Boom, there it goes. And you're at the podcast, and you can listen to the podcast and hear the story that I just told. People will like the tweet, but when that happens, it says the link from this tweet may be a harmful site. So I've been flagged by Twitter. KKHIssues.com, the website, has been flagged by Twitter as a potentially harmful site for misinformation, disinformation, whatever may be the case. Now, this is relatively new. I had not heard this from a lot of people over the last several months. So this is happening as the Musk takeover is taking place. I don't know anything about what they're doing at Twitter. I trust the man that it's going to be better. I do not trust that Twitter is going to be great. I don't particularly like Twitter. Maybe I will learn to. Maybe I'll learn to get better at it and care more. I have, to this point, not cared enough. I have people in my industry saying, Kevin, you're really missing out. You should be using Twitter more and more and more. You should be doing little short videos. You should be mentioning your sponsors on there. You should be doing all this other stuff. And I'm like, man, it's not my thing. I said it could become my thing, but it just hasn't been. I do the least amount possible on Twitter. I do. I promote the podcast. I tweet usually during Chiefs games. That's fun because I know a lot of people are on Twitter and they're active during the games. I tweet things that I find interesting, and I like to retweet things that I think I find interesting. But it's not a real staple of kind of who and what I am. But I found it fascinating that so many people have now said this tweet link to kkhasissues.com, that may lead you to a harmful site. kkhasissues.com is a potentially harmful site, according to Twitter. It has been remarkable. We're going to hit 3 million downloads this month. We haven't done it yet. We're getting there. We're having record days now with downloads here as we approach the election. It's a little hard to gauge because we've done a couple of extra podcasts this week. So certainly we're going to get more downloads when we do that. So they're up this week big time, but we promised we'd be doing that in front of the election, have some candidates on and talk about some things like that. But it's very exciting that this has taken place. And I won't say it's overwhelming, but my inbox is jammed with different companies that want to place ads in the podcast. They want to have, Google pop-ups and insertion and this and that. And I just want to reiterate, as we're going to hit a milestone later this month, because I'll thank everybody then, but I want to reiterate to everybody that I'm not doing that. Okay, I'm not cluttering this podcast with national spots that get inserted at a certain place. It's going to remain a free-flowing, personal, one-on-one podcast. That's what I think of every day. I think of this podcast as just me and you. That's it. And that's the way I want it to be. And if there's thousands and thousands of yous, that's great. But when I do this, I feel like I'm speaking with one person, to you and you only. And that's why I do it. And I don't want to insert these ads, and I don't want to do all this other goofy stuff. But my goodness, since we've gotten more and more downloads, I can't believe all the companies that want me to join, excuse me, for lack of a better term, join their organization. You sign up for their service, and then they go off and sell it to all these things you see, all these gambling sites you see, all these other things that you have, and they will insert spots in my podcast. They will literally, once I post it, there will be breaks in it where the commercials play. And I'm like, no, that's not. We've been doing this 2 years. People seem to like it. I'm going to keep it the way it is. But it's been so fun to see what's happened with big tech, that I just consider all that big tech. And now Twitter thinks, or maybe they've thought for a long time, that KK Has Issues is a harmful site. I'm guessing it has to do with how many people go there and how many listens and downloads and clicks go through that site. We like to do it this way. I'd rather just personally talk about who the sponsors are, so you know who they are, and you personally know that they're people that I know and I trust, and they're like us. One of the ways to do that is the KK list. More and more of you are just going straight to the kklist.com to see who the sponsors are when it's time to do something. I got a call yesterday about one of the sponsors and said I called him, but the phone didn't go through and it didn't work. And I looked on the list and a couple of the numbers got transposed wrong. So if you go to the KK list and you have any trouble at all with anyone, with any website, with any phone number, let me know, and we'll find out if there's something wrong there. We proofread it all and thought we have it all, but it's, there's a lot of stuff there. And I don't have some big tech staff doing all this for us. It's me and Jessica. This is mom and pop stuff now. So we appreciate you going to the KK list. They're all right there. Great sponsors like Roberts Robinson, who's been with us from almost day one of the podcast. I think we were on the air for a week, and Mike Robinson reached out to me, and I've told the story. I said I didn't know that for 13 years he wanted me to do his radio spots, but I was off doing a Ford dealership, and the sales reps and people at our business were like, Kevin can't do that. He does someone else. Kevin can't do that. He's doing someone else. I didn't even know. I didn't really even talk to Mike about it. But the second I started doing the podcast, he's like, oh my God, here's my chance. I wanted you to be my guy all through these years. And Mike's a great guy. And the people at Roberts Robinson are really nice people. If you're considering a GM, car, truck, SUV, please consider Roberts Robinson. They'll have it built for you and deliver right to you. It doesn't matter where you live. You don't have to live in Excelsior Springs. That's old school stuff. They'll get it right to you. And right now they're offering $100 off on 4 tires. If you need some tires, or if you just want regular service, they'll pick your car up, do the service, and return it to you. It's great stuff. RobertsRobinson.com. Fry Orthodontics was with us back in the radio days as well. My daughter got her braces at Fry Orthodontics. She's got a beautiful smile for life. I have a picture of her right here in front of me on a desk in my office. It is when she was in college. It is just her. I take all my kids' friends and significant others out of the pictures in my office. I just like to see them. I have my two boys, one with a camera on his shoulder at a K-State game in Manhattan when he was working in the media, and his brother standing there with him, my daughter. Then I have one with me and my sister and my mom at the World Series with Spencer. Right there. And there's Jessica things in here too. But I don't like to clutter it with the, where am I going with all this? I don't like to clutter it with the boyfriends and girlfriends and all that stuff. Get married, have some babies, and we'll put some family portraits up, okay? Give me some grandkids, and we'll put those up. Right now, these are older pictures. I remember them as younger people, and that's what I can see it right. They're right below my television monitor, just to the right of my computer monitor. I'm looking right at them right now. That's great stuff. Anyway, she has a beautiful smile, is the point. From Fry Orthodontics, online at fryorthodontics.com. Back Nine Development, TJ Vilkanskis is he's a world-class developer and builder. He does custom homes. He's building a beautiful custom home in Lansing right now. Spectacular. He's got the condominiums in Manhattan that are either sold out or almost sold out, the Solheim at Grand Mere. He's got projects in Kansas City, Topeka, all over. He's working on on a project as part of the renovation in Aggieville. This guy's really, really good, really creative. If you're in real estate or you're involved in a project or you want to build, TJ Vilkanskis is your guy. 785-236-0161. To see the portfolio, log on to back9development.com. Jay Powell is the Fed chair, and he gave a speech yesterday that was one of the most bizarre things that's ever happened. We've had a bumpy road in the stock market since Joe Biden took over. A lot of that was fixed in October with the best month we had in years in the stock market. You may or may not be involved in the stock market, but it's a reflection. I think the stock market is largely a reflection of how Americans feel about where we're headed. I think part of October was the Republicans are going to win. Okay, a lot of this nonsense is about to end. The spending is certainly going to end. So I think we know this for sure. The next 2 years, the government will not be printing money and spending it on things like Green New Deals. That's done. Okay? That's gone for at least the next 2 years. So the markets will react to that. But some other good things, there's been some signals that the Fed was going to start slowing down on raising interest rates. So Jay Powell goes out and gives his speech, and he's talking, they like to call it dovish, very soft. He's talking soft, like, we've good things going on. We're raising it 0.75 of a point. It's all positive. Apparently, at some point during this event, somebody showed him their phone that the market had just gone up 500 points because it sounded real good. It sounded like we were headed to good things. And then Jay Powell becomes mean, like almost snarky, like, hey, I'm in charge here. The thinking was it's going to be 0.75 of a point this time. Next month, it's going to be 0.5 point. And then maybe the month after that, it's going to be 0.25 of a point, and then it's over. And in the middle of his speech, he went from being kind of soft and sweet and things are pretty good to this is going to hurt. All right. And the beatings will continue until morale improves. That's basically what he said. He pivoted right in the middle of the speech, didn't become angry, but his talk became very firm that this is not the end. We're going to keep doing this. There's no end in sight. We don't know when we're going to stop raising rates. And did the market go down? Right in the middle of his speech. It went from 500 up to 500 down. 1,000-point swing. This is insanity. Now, people tell you, be careful investing in the markets. They can be wild. Well, this is crazy. One man speaking about what he's going to do with interest rates. Now, Jay Powell, who's kind of a soft-spoken, smart guy, everybody says he's a nice man. He's not supposed to be partisan. He's got a very simple job. It's complicated, but it's simple. It's the economy, stupid. His job is the economy. He's the Fed chairman. Make sure that the books are balancing and things are good and we're going to be okay in America. And it seemed he's caught up in all this political madness that don't think you can push me into being soft, like I'm going to ease this and things are going to be better. I'll show you. And he went off script. And when he went off script, he was tough. Like, we're going to keep doing this for quite a while. Larry Kudlow, who I trust a lot, said afterwards, there's going to be a lot of pain because the goal here is 2% inflation. And Kudlow believes right now, the inflation numbers are in the 8s. He thinks we have 7% baked in and doesn't know how you're going to end that. He sees no end in sight to at least 6 to 7% inflation. The goal is 2. The problem that I don't understand, I'm not an economist, the problem with doing all this to lower inflation is, A, it's not working. Inflation hasn't really slowed, okay? And B, while you're doing this, you're killing the economy. You're killing it. People aren't buying big ticket items. They're going to stop buying cars. They're going to stop buying and selling houses. They're going to stop buying washers and dryers and electronics and things of this nature, or a new computer. They're not going to buy big ticket items. This Christmas is going to be, I would think, is going to be a disaster. We'll see. Maybe by the dollars, it's not, because inflation, everything costs so much more. Like, you could literally have 15% less stuff purchased this year, and it would be the same amount of money. And they'd say, oh, the year-over-year spending is equal or the same, and it looks good. Well, no, that's not good. Like, this year's Christmas spending needs to be 15% higher than last year to be equal because of all the inflation. I don't know. I don't understand. You can sit here and drive rates up and slow everything. I just sit out here in the Midwest, and I know I'm talking to people. We're the boots on the ground. It's slowing. You can see it's slowing. Look, I can live in a neighborhood with about 15 lots left to build. It's almost completely built out, but it looked like it was just when we started building, we're like, dang, every lot's going to be sold. Everything will be, by the time we move in, everything will be under construction. It's over. It has halted. It is halted out here. There's nobody buying lots and building houses where we're living. I don't know when that's going to end. The movement is not there. It's not happening. So if that has already occurred, easy on the rate increases. I think they can ease them. I think people see this as expensive money and they're not borrowing it. What Jay Powell did was create uncertainty, and that is the last thing you want to do if you're the Fed chairman. You want to give clear guidance. This is what we're doing. And he got out there and said, we may be backing off. And then he said, we're not backing off. You can't make us back off, because he saw the markets go up. And he didn't like that. It drives me crazy that kind of stuff goes on. Our quote of the week comes from our friend Tony at Tony's Kansas City. Again, this is a site you must visit. Tony'sKansasCity.com. You should probably go there at least once a day. You should. It's fun. It's interesting. It's an aggregate site. I am a huge fan of aggregate sites. Put all the news in one place. It's way more interesting and better than the Kansas City Star. There's a lot of local stuff there, but there's national stuff there as well. And Tony gets the quote of the week. If something is national, he always relates it locally. So this is good. So this is about a Missouri poll that 50.4% of Missourians hate the student loan forgiveness program. 35% support it. Those are the wacko liberals, right? They support anything the left does. We know 35% of the country is crazy left, and they'll support anything those people do. Again, here's a poll with 15% of people undecided. That is conservatives in Missouri telling the pollster to go fly a kite. So to me, this poll is 65-35. Missourians against the student loan forgiveness. That makes sense. So leave it to Tony's Kansas City to put this in perspective with our quote of the week, and that is, quote, the popularity of the White House is certainly fading when you can't even give money away, unquote. And I thought, that's clever. That's funny. We know Tony's Kansas City to be snarky and funny that way, and I never really thought of it like that. But yeah, Biden's popularity is in a really bad spot when he can't give money away and make people happy. But it led me to thinking about, and thank you, Tony, for this, and appreciate all the great work you do at your website. Again, Tony'sKansasCity.com. You should go there every day and check something out. Even if you've moved out of town, you live somewhere else in the country, if you have any affiliation to Kansas City at all, you should go there and check it out. Tony'sKansasCity.com. It's a wonderful site. I don't agree with everything Tony says and does, but it's just so fun and snarky and great. It's terrific. You're going to love it. But it led me to think, the second I read his quote, the popularity of the White House is certainly fading when they can't even give money away, I thought, well, yeah, that's true. Then I thought, wait a second. Maybe the Democrats have given away everything they can. What if we're in a post-giveaway period now, where we go to the next 2 years, there are no giveaways because the Republicans are going to Congress. There's going to be no giveaways. COVID ended. That was the biggest giveaway of all time. Massive giveaway. So he's raised Social Security 11% this year. So that's the biggest giveaway they've ever could give away, or at least the Democrats have given away, or in decades. 11% increase in your Social Security check. That's just money we don't have that we're giving away. Handing it out. Student loan forgiveness, giving it away. Green New Deal, giving it away. What happens now if we're in a period where there aren't any giveaways? What if almost literally Democrats have given away everything they can? What's left? What is left that the left has not given away? It's a legitimate question. I don't have the answer to it. I don't have any great in-depth analysis here. I just thought of the question today. What if they're out of things to give away? They give away health care, basically. I mean, we're getting very close to them running out. What happens to the Democrat Party when they're out of things to give away? Does that mean the only thing they could do is agree to tax cuts? Is that the only possible giveaway they'd have? I mean, a tax cut, you can call it a giveaway. It's not. It's just not stealing from you. I think the dumbest thing in government, in the world, is an income tax. I do not understand why you punish people for working. I'll never understand it. There has to be, or should be, some sort of consumption tax or sales tax, whatever you want to call it, that should cover all this. When you spend money, you pay tax. It becomes your choice. Do you want to get taxed or not? Is this the right time for you to buy a new car? There's going to be a whole bunch of taxes on it. Or is it not? The reason they do it this way is if they take your money and you never really had it, you don't know that you're missing it. What you have, you'll spend. But if you see the giant taxes on all the things that you're buying and they're not taking it out of your check every week and you have more money, you may say, this is great. We just have more people would. The bottom line is more people would save. I think that's what we know. More people would save. There would be more wealth. There would be more rich people. Everything would rise. And to me, that would be a good thing. The government would have to find more and more ways to get revenue. I guess. I don't know. They just print it and give it away. My mom always asked me, well, I don't understand this Federal Reserve and all this stuff. Why don't they just print more money? If they don't have it, why don't they just print it? I said, well, that's kind of what they've done. We're 30-some trillion in debt. They've just printed money or given it away that they don't have. She goes, well, how can they just do that? I said, well, anybody can borrow. It's like borrowing money. The problem is when you do too much of it, we have inflation. And she goes, well, I don't even understand that. Well, now we're living it. I'm telling you, she's asked me for 25 years, why don't we just print money and pay for that? Or we just print it? Or we just give it away? And I'm like, well, if we print money and give it away, you're seeing what happens. The price of everything goes up. Thanks to Tony's Kansas City for a great quote there. Biden's popularity certainly fading when he can't even give money away and be popular. I spoke with my friends at Advanced Medical Imaging yesterday. These are great people. It's in Lawrence. They have a medical practice there as well. It's now Jessica's new doctor. Dr. Suber at Advanced Medical Imaging is now Jessica's new doctor. We've gotten to know them. And Dr. Suber, is terrific. Jessica went for a physical. And they have the imaging center and the medical practice all in the same place. They're great folks. They're online at medimageks.com. If you want to get an MRI or a CT scan today, outside those expensive, time-consuming hospital chains, this is a great way to go. It's Advanced Medical Imaging. It's state-of-the-art. You know healthcare and the big part of the system is a mess. These are the little guys. The little guys do it better. In this case, they accept all major insurance for your MRI or CT scan. Or if you want to get the heart scan like we did, that's out of pocket. It's under $100. Get your plaque score. If you're over the age of 40, you should do that. They also see all the other organs in your torso. You can see if there's anything in there. It's not what it's designed to do, but they've caught some things with people before, which is great. They're the best, brightest, biggest, most comfortable machines for MRIs anywhere in the Midwest. They're quiet. They have natural lighting. It's comfortable. It's easy. You are not there long. Call Tricia, 785-856-0224 for Advanced Medical Imaging online at medimageks.com. And, of course, if you don't remember that, they're at the KK list, like so many of these companies. Amazing Garage Floors, online at amazinggaragefloors.net. My man Hutch is at Fantasy Camp this week with the Royals. Hutch and Jamie Bluma, former Royal, were texting me last night during the World Series after I got home from the event. And I think they were texting me after fantasy camp was over and maybe they'd cracked a couple of cold ones. You can't always tell by the texts, but I sort of could tell. Bluma texted me a giant thank you from the patrons of KKHI. We made a nice donation to Red, White, and Bluma, which is military charities. We did that a few weeks ago. And he said, thank you. Our final numbers are in. We raised $150,000 at Red, White, and Bluma, netted $150,000 for charity, military charities. And that takes us over $400,000 since we started the event. So it's obviously getting bigger and bigger and bigger every year. And then he sent me a thank you with a whole bunch of other words and exclamation points that was off the charts. But part of the reason we have a patron program here is the charitable things we're able to do through that program within our community. And I know it's asking a lot to say become a patron and trust me to make the decision on where this money goes. But I think everything we pick is just really worthy. And so we're happy to support Red, White, and Bluma. It was great to hear from those guys. They're at fantasy camp. They had finished the day's work, and I think they were having some pizza party dinner or something with some cold beers, and he wanted to get me those numbers to pass along to all of you. Stunning numbers. Many of you donated, not just patrons. When I make a donation, I write a check from the patrons to the charity, but many of you donated, and I can't thank you enough. He said the impact from this podcast on their event this year was sizable. That's awesome. Thank you so much. RedWhiteandBluma.org is the organization, and Amazing Garage Floor is the title sponsor because we just love Hutch and the great work that he does. All right, on to sports. World Series Game 4, the Phillies in Game 3 hit 5 home runs and won 7-0. They turn around the next night and get shut out, victims of a no-hitter. This is the second no-hitter in the history of the World Series. Don Larson had the perfect game in 1956. My God, that was before I was born. Christian Javier, 6 innings pitched last night. Then they took him out, went to the bullpen for the 7th, 8th, and 9th. 4 pitchers for the Astros combine on the no-hitter and tie the series at 2 games apiece. Now, if they're not getting ratings for this series, I give up. There's been lots of long balls. The fans are into it. It looks fantastic on television. There are individual performances that are great. It is an unbelievably competitive series. While the games aren't always white knuckle kind of games, the series is tied 2-2. And now we kind of have a must-win for the Phillies in Game 5. This is their last home game. They got to win Game 5. It's impossible to believe they'd go to Houston and win 2. So this game kind of flipped the series back way in favor to the Astros. It's really all they needed to do, but the Phillies need to win Game 5, and it is all on. Also on Wednesday, the University of Kansas, for the second time this year, suspended head coach Bill Self, the National Championship Hall of Fame basketball coach, for cheating. They have suspended him 4 games for breaking the rules that they were caught breaking in 2019. Look, I don't want to belabor this point because there are 2 types of people listening right now. There are those of you that are okay. And look, let me just first say this. I've always said this. In college athletics, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Because there's a lot of people out there cheating. So that's just where I stood on the thing forever. Okay? So maybe you're okay with the cheating. Maybe you're not. Let's take that out of the equation and let's stick to the facts here with Bill Self. He's now had infractions at every single stop. Oral Roberts, Illinois, Kansas. So he's broken rules everywhere he's been. This is Kansas suspending him for 4 games, not the NCAA. His Adidas rep, James Gatto, this is nothing. Bill, you feel bad for Bill Self getting 4 games? James Gatto, his Adidas guy, spent 9 months in federal prison over this. 9 months in federal prison for wire fraud and illegal payments to Kansas recruits. 9 months in prison while Bill Self was coaching and making millions. Okay? So there's no feeling bad for Bill Self no matter what happens. I received almost instantly a dozen texts yesterday. Oh, a slap on the wrist for KU. Yeah, that was a slap on the wrist from his own school. The NCAA has determined nothing at this point. Jeff Goodman, a college basketball writer, says the NCAA will render its verdict and punishment after this season, which is just remarkable because we thought it was going to be before last season, and it has not been. This is Kansas trying to lessen the blow. This is Kansas for the first time this summer by suspending Bill Self from recruiting trips and now suspending him for 4 games, including the Duke game in the Champions Classic. This is the University of Kansas telling the NCAA, yes, we cheated. We know we cheated. We know we broke rules. This was the school that defiantly said we did nothing wrong. This is the coach that had a legal team that said, I absolutely did nothing wrong. This is completely unsubstantiated. We will fight at the end. Bill Self has accepted this punishment. I don't know why, because until this point, he has publicly said, I did nothing wrong. So this is an admission of guilt by Kansas basketball. We broke rules. We cheated. You caught us. Now, what I don't like in these things is, to me, the cover-up's always worse than the crime. Kansas has been running around since 2019 acting like victims. In fact, they filed, this complaint that they were the victim in this case, and it was all just ludicrous from the start. Make no mistake about it, Kansas has handled this thing perfectly. They've done a beautiful job handling this thing. They convinced their entire fan base they did nothing wrong. Now they're making it look like they did just a little bit wrong, not very much, a 4-game suspension, we'll lose a couple. It's so lame they punished themselves by not having recruits to late night at the Fog. This was a late night at the Fog where Bill Self afterwards said, how come there were no recruits here? He said, well, our 2023 class is full. We didn't need to bring anybody in. He either lied that night and could have said, well, my athletic department suspended me from having kids in. Maybe that is what the truth was. Maybe he was telling the truth. I think he was telling the truth. His class is full. They didn't need to bring anybody in. They didn't need to bring anybody in. That's how light this self-punishment is. This is ridiculously light self-punishment. This is the slap on the wrist. There is no punishment here to Bill Self and the Kansas basketball program. But they're making a statement to the NCAA. We got you. We now admit we're guilty. We've been fighting you for 3 years, and we admit we're guilty. You caught us cheating. We admit that. We're taking measures to let you know that we're taking this seriously. We're going to punish our coach. We're going to embarrass him publicly. Take it easy on us. That's what this is about. Take it easy on us. That's what they want. KU has proven to everyone in the country that dragging this out is absolutely the right thing to do. It's costly. They have spent millions in legal fees. Bill Self has spent a pile, I'm sure hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees. But they did the right thing. Oklahoma State had one coach that took a bribe. Oklahoma State basketball, one coach that took a bribe. One coach took a bribe. They had one violation. Kansas has 5 level 1 violations. Oklahoma State had 1. They immediately caved at the mercy of the NCAA and got knocked out of the tournament for a year. They got a tournament suspension. The University of Missouri had a tutor come forward and say, I helped kids scam on tests. Remember this 3 years ago? They got postseason bans in 3 sports, including football. Kansas dragging this out, there are those that believe now they will not get a postseason ban. Because what has happened over the last 3 years is the pendulum has swung, and now suddenly we don't think it's fair to punish the team that's there, what would be 4 years later, with nobody on it of the kids that were taking the money that committed the cheating scandal to begin with. So will Kansas receive a postseason ban? I don't know. I know what they want to do with the basketball coaches in college is go after the coaches. So I think I think this is Kansas saying that. We're not punishing anybody else except our coach. Our coach is responsible for this. We've given him a lifetime contract. The chancellor of the university said we have unwavering support for Bill Self. I think this is them saying, look, we punished our own coach. Take it easy on him. We'll see what happens. Again, Jeff Goodman tweeting out that it will be after this season before this is resolved. That's just crazy. We also learned this week that Gonzaga officials, including Mark Few, the basketball coach, were in Texas and met with Big 12 officials over the past week about joining the Big 12. And this story grabbed headlines because Gonzaga is great at basketball, but the whole thing just seems bizarre to me that this is occurring. Gonzaga into the Big 12. Now, how does that work? Gonzaga hasn't played football since 1941. So what does this look like? This looks like a 12-team conference that plays 16 in basketball? That there's some sort of an alliance for basketball, that it expands out? I guess that's possible, but how do you compensate those teams? Or do you merely compensate them with shares of percentages of everybody that makes the NCAA tournament? I don't really know. I'm not going to sit here and poo-poo the idea of Gonzaga and some other basketball schools joining the Big 12, but I don't really think of it that way. They've signed an agreement, and I don't know what the television networks think like this, and I just don't know. The whole thing is so new to me. The idea of Gonzaga, would they start a football program? They can't. They're a small school. They're not going to start a football program, and if they did, they would be nowhere near Big 12 caliber. So this would have to be hoops only. And are we looking at maybe a 16-team mega league in basketball and a 12-team football league? Is that what we're looking at? I don't know. I'm bringing it up in case you hadn't heard the story, because I will call around. I will try to find out more. And the Chiefs are a whopping 12.5-point favorite against the Titans this week. We'll have Lee Sterling on the podcast as well. We'll get his picks from all of the games. Here's your update on the Chiefs. Trent McDuffie is activated. The rookie corner will play on Sunday night. Lucas Niang, the lineman, is back practicing. He has not been activated. The Chiefs have 3 weeks to do that, but he's back on the practice field from injury. Kadarius Toney, the wide receiver acquired from the Giants, is practicing and has a chance, I guess, to play if they like what they see and if he's learning the offense. Willie Gay was limited or sat out in practice due to a hamstring injury, so 1 game back for Willie Gay, and he injured his hamstring. And Frank Clark this week will not play. He starts the first of his 2-game suspension for his gun charges in California. This is smart. The Chiefs play the Titans and the Jaguars, not to be confused with other teams the Chiefs play when it comes to the position of quarterback. Frank Clark is specifically on the field to sack the quarterback. You probably don't need him in the next 2 games like you need him in other games. There was no appeal. There's nothing. Just serve these 2 games, and thank God the NFL only gave you 2 games. And that those 2 games are the Titans and Jaguars at home. That's fantastic. Chiefs are a 12.5-point favorite. I don't get it. The Titans give the Chiefs a tough time all the time. I'm not saying the Chiefs can't win by 20, because they can. I just don't know that they will. On a future podcast, we will break down and discuss the AFC and the top teams in the NFL, which right now the top tier is, in no particular order, Buffalo, Kansas City, Philadelphia. Those 3 seem to set themselves apart, not record-wise, because the Chiefs have 2 losses. Not record-wise, but based on past performance, A-game, quarterback, things like that. I mentioned to a friend this week, I'm going to dig into this and find some numbers and support this. The thing I don't like about the Chiefs is what the playoffs take is you have to string off a bunch of good games. I think if you mention the Eagles, the Bills, and the Chiefs, and you said in any given week, which is the least likely team to play their A game, I would almost every week say the Chiefs. Because the Chiefs just almost every game fall behind. It's what they do. They just don't play as well as they could. They don't. The Chiefs are underachieving. They're 5-2. They're underachieving. They can be better than this. They absolutely can be better than this. It starts with Tennessee. It starts with playing the Titans, a team that's certainly limited in their ability to score points and the way they play, that is going to try to slow the game down. It's line up against the Titans and do better than you've done against the Titans before. Go take this team out. Go build a 17-7 halftime lead. Go do that. Do not let them hang around. They're good at hanging around and winning football games. It's what the Titans do, and the Chiefs have been victim to this. Last year, the Titans just beat the Chiefs. They just passed. It was 23-7 or something. Or maybe the Chiefs didn't score 27-3. It was worse than that. I'm not sure the Chiefs scored a touchdown in that game at Tennessee. I was at that game. It was horrible. Chiefs went to 3-4 on the season. We thought it was all over. They wound up hosting the AFC Championship game. It was about this time. It was about a year ago. Yeah, it was 7 games in, so here it is. Go beat this team on Sunday Night Football and beat them soundly. And I'm okay if the Chiefs win 34-24, 10-point win, as long as they have the lead. Don't fall behind 10-0 and be sluggish and look like it's just going to be a slog all night. Go beat these guys. That would make our friends at Jocelyn's Jewelry happy. Hey, it's almost holiday season, guys. You're going to be looking for something shiny for her. I know you are. 95th and Antioch is the place to go. Do me a favor when you go in there, ask for Dave or Cameron and mention the podcast. They love hearing from you. They love you being part of the family. At Jocelyn's Jewelry, the friends you'll recommend to your friends and family. Just drop my name. That's a retail place. You can just walk in and drop my name. Open arms, big smiles. They'll be very happy if you mention the podcast or mention my name at Jocelyn's Jewelry. And Cross Kitchens, KC, your remodeling source. Whether you just want to refinish some floors or replace some countertops, they'll do that. Or they'll do a complete kitchen remodel. They can even help redesign your house. They can throw out walls and remodel. They do it all. These are great people. Tim and his family are wonderful people, great family, conservatives. They're going to do a great job for you. They're going to keep you informed every step of the way. After you meet with them, their design service will work on a full 3D rendering of exactly what they'll do. Then when they do the job, most of their jobs are 2 weeks or less, so they don't disrupt your life forever. That's important. Family owned and operated in Belton, Missouri, Cross Kitchens, KC.com. All right, lots of football headed your way on the remaining podcasts this week. For the patrons, we will have the Thursday night patrons pick for you. Lee Sterling hit again last week to go 6-3 for the patrons. If you want to sign up as a patron, it's very easy. Go on your computer, laptop, desktop to kkhasissues.com. Sign up as a patron. We did a breaking news podcast the last 2 days. We did a Britt Reed podcast. We did a Bill Self getting suspended podcast. When there's breaking news, we do those in the afternoon. It's usually an afternoon delivery. We do Lee Sterling's patron pick every week as a podcast just for the patrons. It's all right there. And, of course, we do a lot of charitable work, and we have an event coming up Wednesday the 9th, the day after the election, for patrons only. I can't tell you where that is, but it's going to be Wednesday the 9th. If you want to know where it is and you want to come celebrate the red wave with us, with all the KKHI patrons, sign up today. kkhasissues.com. You'll be invited. I serve the food. Heck, you eat enough food, it could pay for a year's worth of your patron program. I spend a lot of money on these things, man. There's no cheap outfit. All right, we take care of the patrons. You come to our patron party, I'm going to feed you. You're going to enjoy it. It's going to be good. We're going to have an election celebration. Mike Thompson is going to be our guest speaker. He is a senator in the state of Kansas now, the former meteorologist. We'll be there. We'll do a Q&A around 6 o'clock that evening. We'll let you know where that is and what it's all about with the patron program if you sign up at kkhasissues.com. It's just $5 a month. You get the bonus podcast, the newsletter on the weekend, the in-person events like Mike Thompson Q&A. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'd love to have you next week. So sign up today at kkhasissues.com.
Thanks for listening to Kevin Keatsman Has Issues, presented by Roberts Robinson Chevrolet Buick GMC. To get exclusive patrons-only podcasts, receive a weekly newsletter, and attend in-person patrons-only parties, visit kkhasissues.com and become a patron today. This has been a production of Crooked Tail Media Incorporated.